Listen, if there's one thing women deeply crave from a man but would never dare to say out loud, would you want to know what it is? Most men think they're being respectful, patient, understanding, and they watch her attraction quietly disappear without understanding why. Not because they're bad men, but because the behaviors they're most proud of are the exact reasons she's pulling away. At the end of this video, there's one truth 99% of men completely miss. And when you finally see it, you'll understand why doing everything right still lost you her respect. The first thing, she wants you to lead with certainty, not ask for permission. And here's what's actually happening when you think you're being considerate. Every time you ask, where do you want to eat? What do you want to do? Is this okay with you? You think you're showing respect. You're not. You're quietly lowering your value in her eyes. Think about her day. 300 decisions before she even sees you. What to wear, how to handle her boss, whether to respond to that text, what to eat for lunch, how to deal with that difficult coworker, whether to go to the gym or rest, what to make for dinner. By the time she's with you, her brain is absolutely exhausted from constant decision-making. And then you look at her and say, where do you want to go? You just gave her job number 301. But here's what you don't realize. When you can't decide where to have dinner, her brain makes a calculation. An unconscious one, but powerful. If he can't handle choosing a restaurant, how will he handle real pressure? How will he handle a crisis? How will he handle life when things get actually hard? The guy who says, I know a place, let's go, isn't being controlling. He's not ignoring her preferences. He's showing her something her body responds to before her mind even catches up. Certainty, direction, the ability to make a call and move forward. And certainty creates safety. Safety creates the space where attraction can actually grow. Without it, she's not relaxing into her feminine energy. She's managing you. And managing you is the opposite of being attracted to you. Now here's where it gets worse, and this is the part most guys completely miss. The nice guy who constantly defers to her, who seeks approval before every move, who needs validation before he acts, he thinks he's avoiding conflict. He thinks he's being a good partner. He's creating exhaustion. Every time you ask for permission, you're not being kind. You're being a burden. She doesn't feel cherished. She feels like she's raising you, like she's your mother, not your partner. And you cannot be both attractive and someone who needs constant guidance. Think about turbulence on a plane. Which pilot makes you feel safe? The one who gets on the intercom nervously asking passengers what they think he should do, or the one who calmly announces we've hit some rough air, I've got it under control? Everyone stay seated. Same level of competence, same training, completely different emotional impact. When you defer every decision back to her, you're the first pilot, and her nervous system registers that immediately. It doesn't matter what her conscious mind thinks about equality or partnership. Her body is telling her this man needs me to lead him, and that feeling ends attraction. Not slowly, immediately. Leadership isn't about being bossy or controlling or making all the decisions unilaterally. It's about being so internally solid that she doesn't have to wonder whether you'll hold it together when things get hard. The moment she has to wonder, attraction starts fading. And once it starts, it's incredibly hard to bring back. Here's the test you've been failing without even knowing it existed. She tells you she's running late. Your immediate response is, oh, no worries, take all the time you need. I'll just wait here. It's totally fine. Don't stress about it. You think you're being understanding and patient? You just failed the test. Why? Because now she's not just getting ready. She's also managing your emotions about her being late. She's thinking about you sitting there waiting, feeling guilty, rushing even more. You added to her mental load instead of removing anything from it. Compare that to the guy who says, no problem, I'll grab a coffee at the place next door. Text me when you're 5 minutes away. See what he did? He handled it. Made a decision. He's completely fine either way. She can now actually focus on getting ready instead of worrying about him waiting around feeling neglected or upset. That's what leadership looks like in real life. It's not grand romantic gestures or big dramatic moments. It's small micro moments where you handle things instead of handing them back to her. When you ask her where she wants to eat, you're handing her a problem. When you say, I'm taking you to this place I think you'll love, you're removing a problem. Feel the difference, and when you can do that consistently, in small ways throughout your interactions, She stops seeing you as someone she needs to manage and starts seeing you as someone she can actually relax with, someone she can trust to handle things. That's when everything changes. That's when her attraction isn't something she has to work to maintain. It becomes natural because her nervous system finally gets to rest. And in that rest, in that safety, attraction grows. But most men never get here because they're so busy trying to be considerate that they forget to actually be decisive. So let me ask you this. When was the last time you made a plan and just told her about it instead of asking for approval first? When was the last time you said we're doing this instead of what do you want to do? If you can't remember, that's your answer right there. That's why things feel off. That's why her energy has changed. If this is landing, hit that like button and leave a comment below. Your engagement genuinely helps me keep making content like this. Now here's the second thing, and this one is going to challenge everything you think you know about showing someone you care. She wants you to have your own life, not revolve around hers. And here's the brutal truth most men don't want to hear but absolutely need to. When you're always available, her brain reaches one conclusion. He has nothing better to do than wait for me. And that conclusion doesn't create gratitude or appreciation. It ends attraction. Look, all human brains, regardless of gender, assign value based on scarcity. When something requires no effort to obtain, we value it less. When something requires effort, investment, uncertainty, our brains become obsessed with obtaining it. This isn't theory. This is documented psychology that's been consistent across cultures and throughout human history. The guy who texts back immediately every single time, who's always free whenever she wants to hang out, who drops everything the moment she reaches out, he thinks he's demonstrating how much he cares. He's demonstrating he has no life outside of her. And a man with no life outside of a woman isn't attractive. He's a responsibility, a project, someone who needs her to give his life meaning. Now, before you think I'm saying to ignore her or play games, I'm not. I'm saying have an actual life that genuinely matters to you, goals you're pursuing, friends you value, hobbies that fulfill you, a purpose that drives you, things that sometimes naturally take priority over immediate text responses. The guy who takes a few hours to respond because he's genuinely at the gym or working on something important or deep in a project he cares about, he creates natural scarcity, not forced, not fake, natural. And scarcity triggers something primal in the human brain. She starts thinking about him more, wondering what he's doing, reaching out first, trying to figure him out, working to earn his attention and time. Here's the paradox that trips most men up. The less she feels she completely has you figured out, the more she wants to understand you. The more she has to actually invest effort to get your time and attention, the more valuable that time becomes to her. But there's a critical line you absolutely cannot cross, and most guys get this completely wrong. Unavailable is attractive. Unreliable is relationship poison. Let me break down the difference because this is where good men with good intentions completely sabotage themselves. Unavailable means you have a genuinely full life that sometimes takes priority over constant communication. You're building something. You're at the gym, you're with your friends, you're focused on work, and when you do show up, you're actually present, you're engaged. You're consistent in your character and how you treat her. Unreliable means you disappear for days or weeks with no explanation. You cancel plans at the last minute constantly. You're warm and engaged one day, then cold and distant the next with no discernible pattern. You show up only when it's convenient for you and vanish when it's not. One demonstrates value and self-respect. The other demonstrates instability and disrespect. Here's how to know which one you are. If you're genuinely in the middle of something important when she texts and you respond a few hours later when you're done, that's real scarcity. That's you having a life. That's attractive. But if you see her text immediately, then deliberately wait 3 hours to respond just to seem busy or important or to not seem too eager, she feels that game. Women always feel the game. And games don't create genuine attraction. They create anxiety and distrust. The goal isn't to mess with her emotions for sport. It's to genuinely have a life worth living that doesn't revolve around seeking validation through your phone every 30 seconds. When you're actually building something meaningful in your life, the scarcity happens organically. You don't have to manufacture it. It's real. Now, let me walk you through what's actually happening in her mind when you get this balance right versus when you get it wrong, because understanding this will change how you show up. When you're always available, dropping everything, always the first to text, always free, her unconscious mind thinks he's waiting for me. He has nothing else going on. What does that say about his life, his ambitions, his options, his value in the world? And those thoughts don't create attraction. They create concern. Is this really the kind of man I want? A man whose whole world revolves around me? But when you're sometimes unavailable because you're genuinely busy with things that actually matter to you, her mind shifts completely. She thinks he has a life that matters. He's building something. I wonder what he's working on. Maybe I should reach out. I want to be part of that world he's creating. See the complete shift in energy? She goes from certainty about having you to curiosity about what you're doing, from taking your attention for granted to wondering if she has enough of it. And that wondering, that slight uncertainty, creates emotional investment. Here's why this works on a psychological level. When you're slightly unpredictable in your availability, not erratic, but just not always instantly responsive, her brain wants to secure your attention. She starts investing emotionally because the part of her that craves certainty wants to know where she stands. So she reaches out more, initiates more, plans more, invests more. Not because you're playing games, but because your time genuinely has competing priorities and that makes it valuable. And this is absolutely critical, this only works if the unavailability is genuine. If you're actually at the gym pushing yourself, actually working on a business or project you care about, actually pursuing goals that make you proud of who you're becoming. Because women have incredibly sensitive radar for authenticity versus performance. They can sense the difference between a man whose life is genuinely full of purpose and meaning and a man who's pretending to be busy because he read some advice online. One makes her want to earn her place in your life. One makes her lose interest and start looking elsewhere. Think about the men in your life who are genuinely busy building something, who have real purpose, real drive. Notice how people are drawn to them, how others want their time and attention. That's not manipulation. That's natural attraction to someone who's living fully. Now, here's what happens when you're always available. She starts taking your time for granted. Your attention becomes background noise. She knows you'll always be there, so there's no urgency to appreciate it or reciprocate it. And over time, sometimes slowly, sometimes quickly, she starts pulling back. Not because she's a bad person, but because her brain has categorized you as low value. Always available equals always accessible, equals not rare, equals not particularly valuable. I know that sounds harsh, but pretending it's not true doesn't change the reality of how human psychology actually works. So here's what you do. Start building something that matters to you, not for her, for you. Maybe it's your health, your career, a skill, a business, a creative project, something that genuinely excites you and demands your focus and time. When she texts and you're in the middle of that thing, finish what you're doing, then respond. Fully present, but on your timeline, not hers. Watch what happens. Watch how the dynamic shifts. Watch how she starts reaching out more, asking what you're up to, wanting to be part of what you're building. That's not a game. That's you becoming a more complete, purpose-driven person. And purpose is attractive. The third thing, and this is where most men completely lose her respect without ever understanding what happened. She wants you to set boundaries, not say yes to everything she asks. And here's the part that's going to sting, but you absolutely need to hear it. Every time you say yes when you should say no, you're actively training her to lose respect for you. Not over time, immediately. Women aren't attracted to men they can control. They're attracted to men who have a backbone they can't bend. When you say yes to every last-minute plan change, every unreasonable request, every dramatic demand, you're not being loving or supportive. You're being controllable. And controllable feels safe for about 5 minutes. Then it completely ends attraction. Think about what you're teaching her when you immediately cancel your plans because she wants to see you right now. You're teaching her that your word to other people doesn't mean anything, that your commitments are flexible, that your life revolves around her mood in any given moment. But if you calmly say, I'd love to see you, but I already committed to this, how about tomorrow night? You're teaching her something completely different, that you're a man of your word, that you have standards you actually uphold, that you can't be pushed around or guilted into changing your mind. And her respect for you grows, not shrinks, grows. Here's what you need to burn into your mind. She will test your boundaries, not maybe. She will. Not because she's trying to be difficult or because she's a bad person, but because she unconsciously needs to know if you're actually solid. If you can be easily swayed by her, you can be easily swayed by anyone. Your boss, your friends, random people, and that doesn't feel safe to build a life with. She'll ask for something unreasonable to see if you'll cave, create unnecessary drama to see if you'll fold under emotional pressure, push against your stated boundaries to see where your actual line is versus where you just said it was. And when you hold firm, when you stay calm and grounded and don't budge from your no, something powerful shifts in how she sees you. Her respect skyrockets because you just proved you have a backbone. You just demonstrated that you're not going to be pushed around by emotions or guilt or pressure. This is why nice guys who never say no, who bend over backwards constantly trying to please, rarely keep a woman's respect long term, because a woman cannot respect a man who doesn't respect himself enough to maintain boundaries. She might say she wants you to always agree with her, always accommodate her, always put her first. But watch what actually happens to her attraction when you do that. It dies. Now, here's the critical distinction most men completely miss. There's a massive difference between setting a healthy boundary and just being a selfish jerk about it. Setting a boundary sounds like this: I understand you're frustrated right now, but I'm not available to have this conversation when we're both this heated. Let's come back to it tomorrow, when we've both had time to cool down and think clearly. Being a jerk sounds like this: I don't care how you feel. Deal with it yourself. I'm done talking about this. See the difference? One acknowledges her feelings while maintaining your boundary. One dismisses her completely. One respects both people in the relationship. One only respects yourself. The key is calm firmness without anger or punishment. When you set a boundary from a place of genuine self-respect, rather than trying to hurt her or prove a point, it doesn't damage the relationship. It strengthens it. Because you're showing her that you can be firm without being cruel, strong without being harsh, decisive without being dismissive. Try this exact phrase next time. No, I won't cancel my plans for tonight, but I'm completely free tomorrow and I'd love to spend that time with you. Clear, calm, firm, respectful of both your commitment and her desire to see you. Watch what happens. Watch how, instead of getting angry or hurt, she respects you more. Watch how the dynamic shifts from her testing you to her trusting you. Because the man who can calmly say no is the man she knows can handle pressure, can make tough calls, can stand firm when life gets hard, and that man is the one she'll work to keep. Not because of games or tactics, but because he demonstrated something increasingly rare in today's world: unshakable self-respect that doesn't require aggression or cruelty to maintain. Self-respect isn't about being rigid or inflexible. It's about knowing your worth and not compromising it to avoid temporary discomfort. When you start saying no to things that don't work for you, that violate your values, that compromise your other commitments, something interesting happens. The right people respect you more, and the wrong people start filtering themselves out. Both of those outcomes are good for you. Here's what I want you to understand. Every boundary you fail to set, every time you say yes when you mean no, every moment you compromise what matters to you to avoid conflict, you're building a relationship on a foundation that cannot last. Because eventually, you'll resent her for things she didn't even know were bothering you. You'll be angry at boundaries you never communicated. You'll feel taken advantage of in ways you actively enabled. And that's not her fault. That's yours. So start now. Start small. One boundary, one clear no delivered with calm certainty. Watch how it changes everything. Listen, I want you to do something specific after this video ends. Don't try to apply everything at once like some kind of transformation formula. That's not how real change works. Do this instead. This week, pick one thing. Just one. Lead one decision without asking for permission first. Set one boundary you've been avoiding. Spend one evening focused on something you're building instead of being constantly available. Just one thing. And then notice how you feel, not how she responds, how you feel about yourself. Because here's what this is actually about. It's not about getting her to like you more or stay with you or whatever outcome you're hoping for. It's about you becoming a man who respects himself enough that other people naturally respect him too. When you stop being afraid of disappointing people, when you start trusting your own judgment, when you know deep in your core that you're enough exactly as you are, you naturally attract the right people into your life, not through tactics or techniques, through being genuinely authentic and grounded. And that's what women actually want, not perfect, not without flaws, not some unrealistic ideal. They want a man who knows who he is and doesn't apologize for it, who can lead without needing to control, who has boundaries because he respects himself, not because he's trying to prove something. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be solid, consistent, real. If this video showed you something about yourself you needed to see, do me a favor, hit that like button, drop a comment sharing your biggest realization from what we talked about today, and subscribe to Psychology for Life so you don't miss next week's video where I'm breaking down the exact tests women run on men and how to pass them without even trying hard. Remember this: you're not behind where you should be. You're not broken. You're not missing some secret key that everyone else has. You're exactly where you need to be right now. And the man you're becoming through this process of actually respecting yourself, he's absolutely worth the woman who's worth having. Until next time, stay strong, stay real, and most importantly, trust yourself. You've got this.